As we move the program forward, I'd like to introduce two persons who've been very, very vital in helping pull this program together this morning. We have Renee Banks from G.W. Peoples, and we have Karen Camplin. Karen is a consultant and has her own consulting firm in the Washington, D.C. area. So let's give the two of them a hand as they come forward. And from here, they'll be introducing the speakers for the program. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson is no stranger to us, representing the 30th Congressional District of Texas. Unfortunately, she was unable to be with us today. In her place, we have her legislative aide, Harrison Blair. Would you take this moment to stand? Thank you for joining us this morning. Congresswoman Johnson, unfortunately, is unable to be here, but she sent a few words. If we'd like to cue the video, please.
Hello, I'm Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, representing Texas's 30th Congressional District. I want to welcome you to Dallas for COMTO's 45th National Meeting and Training Conference. I am sorry that I could not be there with you in person, but Congress is in session this week, and I'm working hard to represent the people of my district. The Conference of Minority Transportation Officials plays a vital role in making sure minorities are represented at every level in the transportation industry. COMTO is the nation's only multimodal advocacy organization for minority professionals in the transportation industry. I have always said that multimodal transportation is the lifeblood of America. Your industry keeps our goods, money, and people moving from one corner of the country to the other. I am proud of COMTO's leadership in the transportation industry and for developing and growing the ranks of minority professionals within the transportation industry. As a senior member on the Congressional Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, I have seen firsthand the need for more diversity at every level of the transportation industry, especially the top. It is one thing to see a black truck driver on our roads or Latino workers in our docks, but we also need to see minority men and women in those corner offices and leading transportation companies as well. The theme of your conference this year is 21st Century Multimodal Transportation. The future of transportation is now. This could not be a timelier theme considering the challenges the transportation industry currently faces. Between the globalization of commerce and the rise of the internet, the growing effects of climate change, the increased connectivity between people, and emerging cutting-edge technology, the transportation industry has never faced so many challenges. I choose to see the glass half full. I see an industry that has never had so many opportunities in front of it since the dawn of the Discovery Age. The future is now for transportation. The time for innovation and transportation is now. The time for decreased pollution in transportation is now. I'm addressing a room filled with presidents and chief executive officers who determine the direction of major transportation systems across the nation, and the mechanics and operators who ensure the safe passage of millions of transportation riders every day. Your 39 national COMTO chapters have a presence in every corner of this country. You all must use this influence to keep the transportation industry constantly innovating and evolving while pushing for the diversity at every level. In this room, the next great breakthrough for the transportation industry will arise. You are the leaders that the transportation industry needs. The heartbeat of America is pumped by the transportation industry that keeps our roads, rails, waterways, and skies moving so that our country never stops moving forward. Thank you all, and have a wonderful and productive conference.
We certainly appreciate that message from Congresswoman Johnson. Congressman Mark Veazey, representing the 33rd Congressional District of Texas, has established himself as a strong and effective advocate on behalf of transportation, economic development, and higher education, among many other issues. He's a fair-minded congressman who finds balanced solutions to problems. He, too, has sent us a video.
Hello, I'm Congressman Mark Veazey, proudly representing the 33rd Congressional District in Texas, spanning the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I'd first like to say thank you for inviting me to be part of your legislative breakfast, and I wish that I could be with you in person today. As the nation's only multimodal advocacy organization for minority professionals and businesses in the transportation industry, many of you have led the vital transportation projects across the district I represent and the nation. The work you do is invaluable. We must continue to ensure that there is diversity reflected in all levels of the transportation industry. As a lifelong resident of the Metroplex, I have always understood the value of transportation to the district I serve and the United States. Each day, there's a new transportation project beginning, from the expansion of freeways to new railways like the upcoming TexRail project. North Texas is also home to a significant number of transportation agencies and companies, from railways like DART and TRE to aviation companies like American and Southwest Airlines. These companies provide good jobs and make North Texas a major hub of global commerce and provide important partnerships to industry and our military. Our work in Congress and the collaboration with the Department of Transportation are important in order to fund projects vital to our communities. Each of these projects is an investment in transit solutions so that the Metroplex can thrive in the 21st century. Take DART, for example. Over the last 30 years, it has grown to serve over 200,000 people a day and covers over 700 square miles. I was thrilled to support its Red and Blue Line platform extension project, securing the $49.17 million of the FY 2017 Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill. As a result of this project, thousands of daily transit users enjoy improved mobility, as passenger congestion on light rail trains will be reduced by 12%, while accommodating 33% more passengers through downtown Dallas. I encourage you to continue the work you are doing to ensure North Texas remains a leader in the transportation industry and that our workplace remains diverse. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Veazey. State Representative Helen Giddings is president of Multiplex, Inc., and is currently serving her 11th term in the Texas House of Representatives. She serves as the vice chair of the State Affairs Committee and also serves on the House Appropriations Committee and the Calendars Committee. Join me in welcoming State Representative Helen Giddings to the podium.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. I'm a little bit out of breath because it was a little difficult to get here this morning. Let me begin by thanking you for having your conference here in Dallas. We're delighted to have you, and we know the important work that you have to do. I know that you know from the media and from being here, this is a very, very difficult time for our city, and sure, your visit may be just a little bit different than what you would have expected it to be about a week ago. This city is in deep mourning today for those officers who lost their lives just a few blocks from here. And so we are mourning their loss, and we are praying for their families, even as we pray for those people who have lost their lives in other cities in this country where we've had police and citizen interaction. So you probably have already done this, and I know this is unusual for a conference, and if you have, forgive me, but if you have not, would you please take just a couple of moments of silence to honor the memory of these officers who lost their lives a few blocks from here. Thank you very much. Dallas has so very, very much to offer, and certainly we want you to experience all of that. Transportation is so important to Texas, as it is throughout the country. I'm told that in the district that I represent, which is District 109 here in Dallas, that there are more trucks that pass the intersection of I-20 and 45 than any place in the country. And so transportation is very, very important to me. We have the inland port in the district that I represent, which is our answer to water ports. And obviously, we're very proud of the Dallas area rapid transit system that we have here and the service that they provide for our community. I heard Congressman Mark Vesey speak about diversity, which is one of the things that is very, very important to me and one of my priorities, because unfortunately, with the billions and billions and billions of dollars that we do in transportation in Texas, I'm not pleased, as I'm sure most of us are not, with the fact that about 1% of that is done with African American businesses, and not enough of that is done with people of color overall. And if I could just use this one parable, I tell our transportation people, our Department of Transportation all the time, to go back with me 25 years ago and take a look at the National Football League. And what you found there was an absence of black quarterbacks. What you found there was an absence of black coaches. Well, the black athletes didn't get better. They didn't get smarter in terms of knowing how to run plays. The coaches didn't get smarter. What happened is we had a change in culture. And I so hope that the transportation industry will understand too, that what we need to change that 1% here and in other places is a change in the culture. Again, I thank you so much for being here at what is a very, very difficult time for all of us. But in spite of that, all of us want you to have a conference that is informative and enjoyable. And if any of us can do anything to make that more, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Serving his 9th term as Texas State Representative, Representative Roberto Alonzo made history when he became the first Mexican-American from North Texas to be elected to the state legislature in 1992. Representative Alonzo was named Legislator of the Year in 2015 by the Texas Public Employee Association for his distinguished dedication and leadership. Please join me in welcoming Representative Roberto Alonzo. Good morning, thank you.
Good morning. First of all, good morning and thank you for the breakfast. The first thing I did is I got up this morning, and I try to do every morning for the last 4 years, was make coffee in bed for my wife. The other thing I've done is for the last 16 years, 6 months, and 1 week, or 2 weeks. Flowers every Wednesday. But guys, don't feel bad. Let me tell you what that means. Do you know how many points I get for doing that? Watch, guys. 0. Watch, guys. Why 0? Because you're not supposed to get points for something you're supposed to do. Right? But guess what, guys? I do get points. You know why I get points? Because I know I'm not supposed to send the flowers because I'm a guy, and I still send the flowers knowing that I don't get the points. So I get the points because I don't get points. Hey, I'm still a guy, okay? Still a guy. First of all, thank you, Compto, for being here in Dallas. To me, the concept of transportation is very personal. It's an area I've been involved for years. It's part of my life. I used to travel up north working in the fields by transportation and learn about the interstate highways and the ARC in St. Louis and the Yellowstone National Park. Even though, because we were working, we never got to go there, okay? But to me, transportation is big. It's personal. First, I want to thank some of my friends that helped organize that, Cliff Miller, Carmen Garcia, and of course, Q Harrison, who was also on the dartboard. I tell you that and name those folks because, as I said, this is personal because I was on the dartboard. And I learned not only that you get on the car and ride, but there's a lot of more components to it. Workers, contracts, you know. And one of the most fascinating things I learned, I'll tell you, in being on the dartboard was planning. You know, when I tell people one of my stories about being in dart was that they paid the same vice president the same amount of money who oversaw several thousand people as the vice president for planning who oversaw like 25. And I go, something's going on here. I'm not going to say anything. It's kind of like the flower concept. You get points for not getting points, right? I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to watch this. And I did. So I figured it out. I go, wow, it's not just about building. It's about planning. And guess what? It's not just about planning and building. It's about maintaining. One of the presenters on bridges made in one of our legislative gatherings, it's not about building the billion-dollar bridge. That's only 1/3. The other part is maintaining. And before I further my comments, I too want to join Representative Giddings and glad you're here and keeping the concept going because we too are going through this whole situation here in Dallas. And as you heard, I got a big award by the state employees on pensions because I'm on the pensions committee. And I know firsthand what the officers go through in the sense, you know, they get, some give some, they gave all. You know, you sit back and reflect, you know, it's not just a pension, folks, it's giving their life. So those folks, you know, I too dearly feel and big supporter of the guys and women that serve for us all over the country. And we are all have been heavily involved from myself, legislator, commenting, being present, supporting. So you know as well, another person from the family that has been deeply involved is my sister, who's the Mayor Pro Tem of Dallas. Her and the mayor and all the councilmen have been very involved in being supportive of the police and being present, keeping the calm. And guess what? The other part of the family, another part of the family, one of my cousins, first cousin's sons, was one of the organizers of the 800 People March. So I called them to say, be calm, you know, don't think that, you know, because people are blaming you for what happened, you didn't do anything wrong. In this country, we believe in the right to protest, the right to free speech, the right to state our opinions, and we're going to defend that. And I say that because one of the reporters on national TV asked me, so Representative, so what's going to happen now? Are we not going to have any more marches? Of course we are. This is our country. We have to defend our right to march, to protest, to speak out. And guess what? Our folks here in Dallas have been very involved in helping in that effort. In 2006, meaning the police, we had 500,000 people downtown, folks, on an immigration march. Can you imagine 500,000 Hispanics downtown Dallas? Let me repeat this, 500,000. Remember the flowers? Right? It is true. I do sing the flowers, and there were 500,000 people downtown Dallas. And I say that because we must continue not only, respecting, defending, supporting our police, but also our right to protest. And this is part of the reason that you exist as well. A lot of times you're going to hear, why do minority groups exist? Well, because if you don't exist, guess who's going to be bugging the rest of society? You are. And I'm a part of that bugging part. And let me tell you a couple of examples of that. When I sat on the dartboard, I was prior to serving on the dartboard, I added an amendment to the dartboard legislation that said, the board of directors shall reflect the population for which it serves. And guess what? A few years later, because of that legislation, I was appointed to the dartboard. The other part was we did legislation contract to get more minority contracts. With this, I'm going to say this last thought as I conclude in my last minute. Folks, don't let anybody tell you don't count. We all count, and we have a big impact in making decisions. And this last thought, besides the flowers I know you're going to remember, is going to be this one. I know you're from all over the country. I'm going to tell you in 1 minute why the next president of the United States is going to get elected because of Texas. I hear silence. 40, 50 years ago, Texas Mexican-American farm workers went to work in Colorado, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Iowa. And through the years, these Texas Mexican-American farm workers stayed there. And they had babies, and the babies had babies. Now, people say, if the candidate wins Colorado, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Iowa, the battleground states, he wins. Guess why? Because of Texas. All those farm workers that stayed up there are helping elect the President of the United States. Just one example. All the Alonsos, my last name, all the Alonsos in Toledo, Ohio, are my first cousins. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And now introducing our guest speaker is Melvin Clark, Chairman and CEO of GW Peoples Contracting, the only African-American-owned railroad construction contractor operating nationally in this country. Melvin has been an active member of COMPTO for over 30 years and is my friend, my boss, and my mentor. It's my privilege to introduce him. Melvin?
Thank you. Good morning, COMPTO.
Good morning.
It is indeed a pleasure for me to introduce your keynote speaker this morning, Jesse Oliver. I had a chance to meet him approximately 2 years ago when our company, GW Peoples, was performing a rail replacement project here in Dallas. It was indeed a challenging project, and the first weekend went somewhat shaky. However, the management staff at DART continued to provide support from Gary Thomas on down to John Rohn, who is now Vice President of Design and Construction for DART. He got that promotion after we worked our project. But I also have to give kudos to two of our COMPTO comrades. I'm talking about Hugh Harrison and Raquel Olivier. they stepped in and really provided assistance, and that shows that COMTO members working together can really get some things accomplished. And indeed, the job was completed. It was completed well. We were very well received, and looking forward to coming back to do more work with the DART system. In the meantime, more importantly, the DART board supported us. We were a small contractor, a DBE contractor that came down and really took on a major challenge. And people did question, whether or not we should have this contract. I had a chance to attend several of the board meetings and have conversations with our keynote speaker, Mr. Oliver. I found that he was and is an extraordinary man who has had an equally extraordinary career. He has a background with experience in management, labor and employment matters, public finance, the legislative processes. He has legal expertise. He has knowledge of transit development. He's a former legislator and a judge. It was he who was one of the co-sponsors of the legislation that created the Dallas Area Rapid Transit System known as DART. He was appointed by the city of Dallas to be a board member. He served as chairman, and he currently serves as the deputy executive director of the agency now. Time constraints do not allow me to talk about all of his numerous public achievements, all the things he has done to serve this community, but he has served this community well. So, ladies and gentlemen of COMTO, I present to you my friend and our keynote speaker for this morning, the Honorable Jesse D. Oliver.
Thank you, Melvin. Melvin spoke of the work that he did for us a year or two ago, and I don't know if Melvin is quite aware that that work project actually won about 5 national film awards because our media department was filming his group as they did that project. And so it won about 5 awards nationally. And so Melvin, I guess, I forget what it's called. It's not an Emmy. It's not an Oscar, but it's something like that. And so you've got 5 of them. I was asked to talk about transportation as a civil right today, an otherwise reasonable task made more difficult for me in light of the tragic events of this past week in Louisiana, Minnesota, and here in Dallas. Events that have been routinely happening throughout our nation are made more difficult to understand or comprehend when they occur near you and involve people you know and like. I was going to talk about the American concept of civil rights and the place where it is no better summarized than in the preamble to the Declaration of Independence, where it speaks of unalienable rights, rights which include the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I was going to say that these are the rights that civil rights laws, rules, and regulations of today are intended to extend and protect. But after this past week's events, I'm again reminded that no laws, rules, or regulations can either extend or protect the right to life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness without the total commitment of all peoples in sharing them. Laws, rules, and regulations can only create opportunity. If some are allowed to guard, that is, to stand against the doors of opportunity, then opportunity will only exist for the privileged few who were allowed admittance through the door. I was going to talk about Harriet Tubman, who was a conductor on the Underground Railroad. I was going to tell you that this escaped slave, who did not have the right to either life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness, in fact, who did not even have the benefit of basic human rights, worked to free other slaves from involuntary servitude. I was going to talk about Elijah McCoy in the 1870s, when he managed enough rights to obtain patents for his inventions that improved lubrication systems for steam engines. Inventions that were so effective and reliable that the railroads coined the phrase, the real McCoy. That was to distinguish them from imitators. I was going to talk about the 1880s in Granville Woods when he developed the most notable of his 50 inventions. His multiplex telegraph sent messages between train stations and moving trains, possibly the first technological iteration of positive train control. I was going to tell you how World War I African-American soldiers first experienced a true taste of freedom in Europe and returned home to fuel the demand for equality in the 1920s. Demands which in 1923 likely fueled A. Philip Randolph's efforts to organize the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters in his efforts to obtain fair wages and equal treatment. I wanted to tell you that his success spurred him on to become a highly visible spokesman for African American civil rights. In fact, Randolph headed up the 1963 March on Washington, at which Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. And of course, I was going to talk about Rosa Parks, the civil rights icon who helped make public transit available to all. I would speak of her act of courage 60 years ago when she refused to give up her seat on the bus so a white man could sit. And I would tell you of Dart's pride in the creation of Rosa Parks Plaza and the statue of her sitting on a bus seat for all time. I would have talked about transportation and class mobility. How at its core, transit mission is civil rights focused, and much of what we do involves connecting the young, the disabled, and the economically unprivileged to education, jobs, and medical care. These are the tools of upward mobility and should be a right for all. I would have told you about the recent and ongoing study at Harvard University, which establishes that commuting time is the single strongest factor in the odds of escaping poverty. That is to say that the longer an average commute is in a given region, the harder it is for low-income families to move up the ladder. I would have told you that this study showed that social mobility was more strongly tied to transportation than to a host of other factors, including crime, elementary school test scores, and the percentage of two-parent families in a community. I would tell you that these are some of the reasons why transportation is a civil right. Then I would have concluded by telling you how proud I am of DART and how our management, funding mechanisms, and budgeting techniques allow us to significantly subsidize transit services, allowing us to offer more services to the least economically advantaged parts of our region. But of what use is talking of these things when it seems that we as a nation have strayed from the most basic of principles? That is, without life, there can be no liberty, and without liberty, there can be no pursuit of happiness, and without happiness, what use is life? Either humanity learns to live together on this planet, or it will surely survive on its own without us. On behalf of DART and the City of Dallas, I wish to extend our thanks to all of you for your kind words of sympathy and condolence on the loss of our family members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Can we give him another hand, a canto hand, if we could. Ladies and gentlemen, we're running a little early this morning. So what I'd like to do is admonish all of you to move to the plenary session. We thank you again for coming out this morning. Thank you for your participation, and we look forward to a wonderful, wonderful conference as we move forward. So thank all of you, and on behalf of the Board of Directors and our Legislative Committee, thank you for attending the legislative breakfast here this morning. Have a great day.